Hey, Trevor Takuti here, and today I want to talk to you about chronic pain and a condition known as central sensitization. So if you're someone who suffers with chronic pain, maybe fibromyalgia, maybe you're a chronic migraine sufferer, then this video is for you, because I'm going to give you some key tips on what's actually causing or potentially causing your issue and what you might be able to do to help calm that mechanism down. Like always, guys, if you love our videos, please like, share it, subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications, and we'll keep you up to date with all the latest information that we have for you. All right, so let's get to this. So let's talk about central sensitization and that mechanism of what's actually going on. So when we look at a sensory nerve is actually broken into several components. So the first, we have our dendrite, which is the main part of the nerve that's coming into the cell body. The second part is our cell body itself. This is like the brain of it, where all the development and nutrient production, things like that occurs. And then we have our axon, which is where information is transmitted to. So in this case, with central sensitization, the mechanism we're talking about really applies to what we call the trigeminal nerve, which is a common cause for trigeminal neuropathy, a common cause of facial pain, and even chronic pain all over, such as things like fibromyalgia. Migraines, seizures are sometimes, some forms of seizures are also part of that. Motor tics are sometimes part of this mechanism as well. So it's a really, really commonly affected pathway. All right, so what happens? How does this actually occur? So when we have damage to a nerve, so let's say this nerve ending here is damaged in this area, what happens is we have all this input put into the nervous system, goes through that nerve, and then it goes up into the cell body where it spends time in there, and this is all one big electrical signal that triggers this whole area out. From there it comes back down, heads out of our axon into our spinal cord, where it then shoots up towards the brain to notify us that, hey, we've got damage here and we're in pain. So this is how it should happen. And what then happens is once the signal is removed, once the damage is removed, this whole mechanism winds down. There's a big problem that occurs with some sensory nerves when you overload them for long periods of time. The trigeminal is one that this tends to happen to. And what tends to happen is when you keep sending signals into the cell body, these little gates and these channels open up all the way around this cell, and they connect to what we call glial cells. So that's these things here, glial cells. And these glial cells can then in turn actually activate the mechanism itself. So now what happens is we have our sensory system, which is improved. So all this is fixed. We don't have damage here anymore. So we're not sending our signal up here anymore. But now these glial cells start sending information through these gates into the cell itself, into the body. They now activate it rather than coming from here. And this fires off that axon still. So the brain still registers as if there's damage going on here, but this is actually now okay. It's actually coming because these glial cells are stimulating the cell body and causing the nerve to keep firing. And this is a massive, massive problem. The catch that happens with this long term is that when we keep actually firing into the central nervous system, eventually this area becomes hypersensitive, and it's like the microphone volume actually gets turned up. And when the microphone is turned up, now even the smallest bit of input from here or even from other areas of the body now get recognized as pain when they might actually be touch or something similar. And this is what we call allodynia. Okay, and this actually occurs and can occur everywhere around the body, but this is something that commonly happens with people with things such as fibromyalgia. It's a little bit more complicated with fibromyalgia. People with chronic pain patterns have this type of pattern. People with chronic migraines, especially people who are getting migraines upwards from 3 or 4 times a month, this type of mechanism. Trigeminal neuropathy with chronic face pain. This is the type of mechanism that we're talking about. So there's a few key things that we can do to turn this down and negate this. So at the spinal cord level itself, this mechanism is actually dampened to some extent by the neuromodulator serotonin. And we might know serotonin as our mood stabilizer, but serotonin at the spinal cord level also acts as a pain dampener. It modulates at that level. So we know, for instance, that people who have genetic malformations of the 5-HTP receptor for serotonin tend to be at higher risk for these chronic pain type patterns. So there's a first area there. Then we have glial cells around here. We can do certain things to wind these glial cells down. And if we wind these glial cells down, it can potentially help negate that area through there. And then, of course, no matter what we do, we have to stop the damage at this area here. And the biggest cause of damage in here is usually proprioceptive change to the face. So TMJ problems, teeth problems are common, but also issues within the cervical spine and the neck can be triggers for this mechanism itself. So what are a few things you can do? Well, obviously this area here needs to be properly dealt with by someone who's trained in that area, such as our chiropractic team here. Who are highly trained in that area, who know how to work with TMJ dysfunction, cervical spine dysfunction, and the interactions between that. From a glial cell perspective, research on glial cells is still very early on in terms of what we can do to calm them down, but a few things we do know in that early research. Chicken bone broth, enriched chicken bone broth seems to have good effect at winding that mechanism down in early studies, especially in animal models. Cacao, what we're talking about is not cocoa itself, but cacao nibs. So the oil in cacao seems to have a really good beneficial effect on this mechanism. Grapeseed extract is another one that's getting some early research on it, which is looking promising as well, that it may have an effect. It's not sure whether it's not well understood whether it's having an effect on the glial cells or whether it's having its effect on the gut. We do know grapeseed extract does have some major effects on gut health, so it is something we need to use very carefully. And also one that I haven't put up there that I'll write up now is a substance known as resveratrol. So resveratrol can also have an effect in these glial cells as well. One which I haven't put up that, because it's not really understood where it's having an effect, is a substance known as PEA. So PEA may be having effect with the cannabinoid receptors up high in the brain. It may be having it at spinal cord level or at the glial level. It's not really sure how it's having effect, but it can work wonders for people with chronic pain and winding this mechanism down. When we start talking about our serotonin function, there's a few things we have there. So first thing is we know that the production of serotonin requires good glucose metabolism. So making sure you're not insulin resistant is really important. So moving more towards a higher fat, perhaps a low carb diet as well, at least a low GI diet, can help improve tryptophan function in the brain. Testosterone and progesterone. Testosterone in a male, progesterone in a female, very important for serotonin receptor function within the brain itself. So progesterone, a great way of getting your progesterone levels up quite safely is using something like Vitex or chastity berry, which is a good adaptogen. And testosterone, something like Withania, which is a good adaptogen, but also helps with that. Remember, I want to be making sure that you're properly under care and properly making sure there's no risks associated with using herbals with these type of things. Zinc, magnesium, and pyridoxal 5-phosphate, which is a specific form of vitamin B6, okay? Your standard B6 supplements are what we call pyridoxal hydrochloride. This is not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the coenzyme associated with it, which is pyridoxal 5-phosphate. So these things are precursors to serotonin, work really well for it. If you have a high copper level, it can deplete some of these things and negate this as well. But zinc, magnesium, and B6 are really important for serotonin. And of course, a precursor, 5-HTP, which is the immediate step prior to serotonin. But again, we still need good zinc function and P5P levels in order to convert 5-HTP to serotonin. So right, guys, there's a few different ways that we can deal with these chronic pains and this central sensitization. So as I said before, we can get in at the distal level, we can get it at the intermediate level, or at the central level. There's a few things we can do with brain as well, but these are the three key areas that really need to be calmed down to try and wind down chronic pain. It is not easy to achieve, but there are steps that can be taken to achieve that. And there is some good research showing that these type of steps can actually help in that process, whilst that research is early days. Anyway, guys, if you have any questions with that at all, want to know any more about central sensitization and chronic pain and how you can deal with it, maybe glial cells or whatever, just post it up below, email me, message me. More than happy to help in any way, shape or form. I know chronic pain can be an extremely emotional problem and can create a whole lot of distress. So please don't think that you're alone. If you need any help, just reach out. Anyway, I shall catch you in the next vid. Bye for now.